Well, we were supposed to have a 911 meeting with that, the campus, they were doing the search for the, is the drone in the river poplar. That was all I had going for last week.
Robert? It would have been on Friday. We had one City Champions meeting. Very informative. Good turnout for that. So we're working through that. Work Safe Champions. Yesterday at noon, Great Northern Development Company, they had a meeting on a new, I'll call it a new program for us, but it's been passed in the legislature. It's called CPACE, PACE. That gives the ability to, I'm going to mess this up, to go through the process, and then it becomes on your taxes. You make your loan payment when you pay your taxes, basically. And then the treasurer's office then disperses it to this company, then they'll pay the lending agency back. Covers three things, HVAC. HVAC, what's the other one? There's a special out there for firearm security for churches and VFWs. And the other one is agriculture. Has to be a commercial property. Your dwellings has to be bedrooms or apartments, things of that nature. So after this meeting was over, Tori will probably has to be put on the agenda. She'll go over the whole program. We do have to pass it by resolution. So there's an introductory resolution, then there's public comment, then there's a final resolution on that. So that was yesterday, and then we did get some good news on our work comp insurance. Our mod factor, EMOD, is a 0.93, I believe. Is that right number, Corda?
I will number one.
0.93, that means we have a safe work environment. That is very good to see. With that, there was a reduction in premium, 30,000, I believe.
Yeah.
Reduction in premium on our work comp. We did meet with insurance on the property insurance. Like anything, that did go up, but it did go up based on, I think there was $4.5 million in added on value. But it was about a 9% increase, I believe, on our property insurance. So workers' comp, we're trending in the right direction with our safety coordinator. Employees are being a little bit safer. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts. And should do also auction concluded on that totaled out truck and backhoe. That totaled out 2009 Peterbilt truck sold for $24,100 at auction, and the 410 backhoe that was sitting down at Bainville that did run sold for $4,800. So that was the hammer price on those. That check's been deposited to the Roosevelt County. So
I'm just really wondering, what role would the county play in that PACE program?
That's so that the money, it's a special on your tax bill.
Okay, so it'd be a county tax bill.
The county is just a flow through for the payment, but it becomes a special on your tax bill, and instead of making direct payments to a lending agency, they work. So this company works with lending agencies. I think some of them you can push out 20 years if the lending agency approves. I forgot to ask the big question if it's government guaranteed, but it was passed through the legislature, so there's got to be some government guarantee on the backside of it, I would think. It's been around for a while. There's some motels in, I believe, Butte and Bozeman. Maybe they put solar panels up on their roofs. It has to show cost savings in order to qualify for the program. So there is some introductory surveys and things that need to be done, but Tori was going to get a hold of us, get put on the agenda the next week or two. And then the gal that put the program on, I believe her name was Carolyn Jones. She would be on Zoom to answer any questions, and then we have to have the public comment and pass it by resolution if it's something that the county wants to proceed. I think there's one property in Circle currently that is signed up for the program. She just had a meeting that morning down in Circle with commissioners there, so it sounds like somebody semi-local is in.
Well, where was this equipment listed for sale, the truck and the backhoe?
It was on auction time.
Auction time?
Auction time.
Was that ever in the paper here?
Put it on Facebook. It was not, didn't put in the paper.
I think we had a story that you were going to,
No,
Yeah,
you were going online or something.
yeah, there was something that was in the newspaper about it being listed online. And if they follow the auction Facebook page, our auction site, it was on that.
was on your site.
Might not have made the website, but it made our Facebook website site. And then it went through auctiontime.com, which is a worldwide auction platform.
That it? Okay, I guess for myself, I went last week to Washington DC for a National Association of Counties County Leadership Institute. I was sponsored by MACO on this. NACO puts on a County Leadership Institute once a year. There were 19 participants there, states. I was pretty honored to be chosen. You have to be chosen and accepted to that program. I mean, leadership's a wide open thing. When you're doing leadership, you have a technical problem or an adaptive problem, and sometimes they get confused to how to deal with them. Leadership's an activity. You observe, you interpret, you intervene, and you're building capacity as you're doing a lot of this leadership. And it was pretty intense, very well programmed, very well prepared, presented program. So I think it will benefit me in the future as I go with leadership. This fall, I'll become NACO's Montana Association of Counties president. So it'll be good to use there and good to use leadership within the county. One of my things was hiring and retaining qualified employees for Roosevelt County. That was kind of my goal when talking about leadership. So that was interesting. A lot of people don't have reservations on within their counties, and just the different things that go on. Very good conference. Okay. We will move on to minutes. Motion to accept minutes for May 27th.
Make motion.
Second. Discussion is comment on. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes. Administrative issues. Motion to accept the home delivery meals for Culbertson.
Make motion.
A second. These are a bid of $17.50 per delivered meal. Questions or comments?
It's up or down or about the same.
It's the same as last year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Motion to accept home delivery meals for Wolf Point Poplar.
Make motion.
Second. This is 2.8% increase. That's $20.42. Questions or comments?
It's delivered to, or
What's that?
did the meals delivered?
Delivered, yeah. It's $15.67 for the meal and $4.75 to deliver within the city limits.
Second meal went up 2.8%.
Meal went up 2.8%.
They tacked on 25 cents extra for.
So how much was it last year?
19,
Okay, that's it.
1960. Questions, comments, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Motion to accept the Culbertson SRE building, cost share.
I'll make the motion. One second.
Rick talked about this, it'll be, $37,500 what the county's match will be for the SRE building in Culbertson. This was budgeted already in this budget, didn't happen, so for next year's budget. So the money's already been budgeted last year. Rick, do you want to explain, start at the beginning on that? Explain the SRE building?
Well,
And what's SRE mean?
snow removal equipment building. A few years ago, we bought a snow plow for the airport and, FAA money paid for that. And here's a quick summary I'll give you guys, so you got an idea where we've been, where we're going. And, anyways, this has been about 4 years working on this equipment building. When the FAA funds a snow plow, they want you to put it in the building, so they prioritize your building to put that in. And last year we let this thing to bid and it came in way over the engineer's estimate, came in at 1.4 million. So we rejected the bid. We only had one bidder come in at the last minute, so we assumed we just moved it out and looked a little, it was too high. So went back to the drawing board, reduced the size of the building a little bit, about 300 square feet, 300-400 square feet. We reduced the size of the building and come back, waited for a little better bidding atmosphere. And this one come in at about 1 million, which is 400,000 lower than 400,000 that it was last go around. So last night, the city council in Culbertson approved moving forward with the project. The engineer sent us a letter indicating that the bid that came in was good. There was no issues with it, so they recommended approval of the project. And, I guess it seemed like a long road to get to this point, so that's where we're at. Now, you guys understand the airport funding a little bit. FAA provides 95% of the funding for the project. County cities split the remaining 5%. When we did get a $25,000 grant from the state that goes towards the share, the cost share the county provides, so that's where we're at.
So this is, the assumption is the Cortland bid, the $1,099,000 is what you
That
guys.
was close to the engineer's estimate. It was 60,000 over the 1.1 million. Anyways, 60,000 over the engineer's estimate, which is pretty close for $1 million bid. So,
But that was for $44,000 re-engineer, if you take that off there, you're pretty close to on the money.
yeah, last year when we rejected the bid, this is kind of a burn under my saddle anyway. We rejected the bid because it was erroneous. And we were under the assumption the FAA would participate in the redesign process. In fact, we were under that assumption until early this year. And then the FAA eventually said, no, we can't participate in that cost. So the city county got stuck to that extra 42,000, I think, 44,000 to redesign. So to make a long story short, we saved the FAA about $380,000, but it cost the city county an extra 44. Well, not quite that much because we would have took last year's bid, it would have been a higher share for the city county, but so probably an extra 25 or something $1,000 split between them. And I thought that was kind of you hear all these things going on at the federal level, trying to save money, and then you try to do it at the local level, you get stuck.
Well, Kim Cortland's built 2 buildings for the county. They're a very good company to work with. I guess we've had pretty good success though. So
We had a couple of local contractors we tried to get, we just couldn't get a bid out of them. One was out of Glasgow, Raybeck, I think.
Okay.
They kept saying they were gonna put a bid in, bought a set of plans.
sure.
Never did put a price, and then there was a guy constructing out of Dagmar area now, where there's a lot of work in that area for the school and whatnot. Last minute, he backed out too. So. we got two bidders, Strata and Coral.
Any questions, Rick? Well, thank Rick for doing all the work on this. It's been a 3-year project and we've had a lot of different meetings and we lost our original engineer, he retired, so now we got a new engineer working for the
Yeah.
airport board for KLG and
Kind of things over a long time engineer retired,
yeah.
so that stretched out a little bit too.
We have a new engineer with KLJ working on this again with Rick and I think we're making some headway now. You have questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So you can let her go, Rick. Start building.
So we get the FAA money, we have saved up money, so we didn't, they call them entitlements, the 95% share of the federal money comes to us at $150,000 a year. So we've saved up enough to cover that. We don't have to borrow from another airport state.
Well, we borrowed to other airports, so they would borrow back. It's
Yeah, we-
doing the paperwork on it, but
Yeah, we keep a tab on that, so I think Circle was the last one we borrowed money to there, they got done with the project, and they paid us back last year, so.
we'll work through all that.
Yeah.
You have any other motions needed on that, Rick, to proceed, or I guess the city does all the,
Yeah,
we'll do the final stuff on them.
yeah, we won't award until the FAA has reviewed the bidding, which you should have in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Nothing else, we'll move on, we have a letter of support from the public schools on, I don't think we need any action on this, let's see more information, but, there's the railroad crossings in Roosevelt County. As of right now, there's still 2 left that do not have arms and lights. And the one of them that, the school in Culbertson is, sent in a letter to try to get arms and lights on is the 1018, so it's a crossing that Chris Peterson, Bob Anderson's down there. There's about 8 families down on that 1018. And I've already been working on this before this letter. I sent a letter to John Alta from the state of Montana. These arms and lights come from the state of Montana through Montana Department of Transportation, federal safety dollars. And we put arms and lights at Riverside down way on by Bainville. And we put them on 1011, which is on this side of Bainville, and then 1013, which is 2 miles closer this way, between Bainville and Lanark there. And so the 2 that we have left in Roosevelt County that I know of that are at grade, unarmed and on the lit crossings are the one right at Bainville that is in the city of Bainville, and that one's been nominated. And the crossing on 1018, which is what we're talking about here. So both those have been nominated for section 130 funds for safety funds. And it takes time to do that. I appreciate Nicole writing a letter from the public schools to get this done also. It kind of adds a little more urgency to it, because every year this summer they'll evaluate these 2 crossings, and it seems like if you don't have a death or something there, they don't look at them very close. If you've had some accidents there, then they look at them closer. But I'm saying let's get both of these done before there's a death there. School buses use this one at 1018. There's a lot of families down there. There's some younger kids that'll be high school drivers down there. So we'd like to get both those crossings done, and we are working on it. But getting these arms and lights, these at-grade crossings is a top priority for the county. We would say in the last 5 years, we've gotten 3 installed. And we need to get these 2 more installed as time goes on here. It seems like it takes 2 to 3 years to do this, which is always a tough deal to wait on. But it's all part of the process. We're going to keep on going on it, making sure it stays in front of BNSF to get these crossings done. So I don't see any really any motion in any of that. We're already doing it. We're already supporting it. We're working on it. I appreciate the school giving a support letter to add to the urgency of getting it done.
Well, I think this is, as Gordon said too, this is prevent the tragedy before it happens. There's been quite a few instances now in that area, and complacency is a big thing, and if we can prevent something, I think there was like close to $200,000 for lights and arms.
$250,000.
250 for that sort of.
Federal safety dollars pays for it. There is a way that we can, the state will pay for half if the county pays for half. I just gotta do some more checking on that, but both these should qualify for safety dollars.
There was an accident on that one we talked
Yeah.
about some years ago, the mailman. Car put on the tracks, he got out of the car.
And then there was that current accident on the one at Banville with the kids there.
Where was that at? The one that happened prom night?
That was right at Banville. So it's a city road right behind the elevators there. It's in the city of Banville. So when you do this, you have to sign a contract with BNSF that you will pay, that the government agency will pay for the arms if they get broke and nobody gets arrested or nobody gets charged for it and pays for those arms. The local government has to pay for those arms. So that one, the city of Banville would have to deal with. The one on 1018 will be the town. And I know the city of Banville in their last meeting, they talked about requesting arms for that also. So they'll be putting in a request for that also. That's 10-007. So we appreciate that. Nicole, that would be Rick's daughter doing that, right?
Niece?
Niece.
Oh,
Oh, niece, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Niece, not daughter. What did I say? Daughter. It's niece. Ellen and her girls down. Any other questions on that or comments on the process? Okay, motion to accept the USDA's sheep and cattle memorandum of understanding.
I'll make a motion.
Second? I'll second. This is for the wool growers. We allocate $699.60 for the wool growers to protect sheep. And we allocate $9,270.50 from the Department of Livestock to protect livestock, cows.
This is the volunteer tax or
I guess that dollar per head sales tax. That's what that is.
says there's 18,541 stock on roll on the tax rolls, 50 cents a piece comes out to that
50
money.
cents, not a dollar, it's 50 cents.
And it's 60 cents a head on sheep. So
There you go, it says in the bottom there, that's the
I just couldn't remember
license
this.
on it.
Was this the voluntary?
No, it's not volunteer, it's actually a fee or license.
Because there's one that they can vote on.
Yeah, that's the Stockman's growing, that's not through it. This runs through the county, pays this.
Where does this money go?
Well, we've had the guy from Glasgow come in and shoot coyotes a lot. He comes in and runs a plane or helicopter
So it's for livestock protection.
protection, yeah.
Right.
And they have other educational programs. There's a lot of different things they do, but the main thing we see is the
And where's this program?
state of Montana livestock.
Okay, that's where the money goes.
It's all yes. To the USDA, APHIS Wildlife Service.
What's APHIS?
we could make something up.
It's the same one we've done forever.
Always
The continuation of that. Predator Control Fund, I guess it says funds will be made payable to the deposit in the Predator Control Fund, Montana Stock Growers Association.
you should research that, Bill.
Both of them. Sure, I got it.
I've called the head office down in Billings 2 years ago, and it's a gentleman out of Glasgow. He's got a helicopter couple of airplanes, but it's through the Montana Stock Growers Association. I believe this is the tax that livestock producers, the money goes, livestock producers can either opt in or opt out by vote. Roosevelt County, they have all opted in on the cattle and on the sheep for this predator control. If they find that this predator control money is getting used, they're not getting relief from it, they can put it back on the ballot. They can vote that off the ballot.
How do you use the service of this person? You have to call them and say, hey, I got a coyote
Yeah,
out
give Pat Sinclair a text and he
Oh, okay.
comes out immediately.
Yeah.
He's excellent. Pat Sinclair of Glasgow.
Oh,
There's a lot of producers out there that have past direct cell number.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, we don't even know, the bill just comes in and gets paid,
yeah.
you know, so.
I know when they were in, Bainville, the Traeger, Herman Garmin area there on this side of Bainville, they did 102 shot.
Wow.
It's tremendous. He does a great job.
I had 2 dogs chase the horse out here that, will he come and take care of the dog? No.
It's,
I know 2 years ago, I think, Lindsay Nygaard had a dog go missing. Don't quote me on that. But at the same time, J.D. Stensland was losing a lot of calves. He come through in an afternoon and there was almost 130 coyotes he got from Dwayne's place over to Box Elder Creek, kind of up in that area, just kind of flying a loop. So it does help take some pressure out.
it stands for Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service.
Well, that's fine. So,
So the USDA.
that doesn't seem to have anything to do with predator control.
No, but what they might look more into, well, what might they,
I get into the educational stuff and mitigations. All right, motion to accept Lindsay Nygaard's resignation.
Wait.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
I
Want to thank her for her service.
10 years of service.
Okay, no claims. Motion to accept pay increase for Ernesto Hernandez, detention officer.
Make motion.
Second, discussion or comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Motion to accept, sheriff's office, Joe Reinhardt.
Make motion.
Second. Discussion or comment? Favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion to accept Vicky Boyson. Second. Move her to 75% deputy wage. And quit the recorder's office. Lots of questions. Favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Recommend, appointing deputy to 70%, Joshua Hutchinson.
Make motion.
Second. This is in the clerk and clerk's office also. One resignation created a lot of paperwork. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion to do an annual pay raise for Ryan Lambert.
Make motion.
Second. Discussion and comment. Favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Motion to accept the letter of hire for Marlene Turner.
Make motion.
Second. It's a full-time clerk, position in the clerk and clerk's office. Discussion and comment. In favor, say aye.
Aye. If I may, I know last time we went through this, but all these hires and pay raises that are under elected officials or department heads, when they come through here, it's just a policy procedure. We're making sure there's money in the budget. We don't, as a commissioner's office, I've been asked this a few times, we cannot control what happens under another elected official and or department head. So I just want to make that well known that we have no other authority over any other elected officials. So when these come in, Lambert annual raise, hires and stuff like that, sheriff's office or any other office, more of a formality when it runs through this office. Just want to make that note.
We had a late pay raise, motion to accept Suzette Wagner raise.
Make motion.
Second. This is from the sheriff's office. Question or comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Additional administrative issues, there's been some questions about House Bill 231 and Senate Bill 542, which is what you're gonna be charged for property taxes in the next year. I know I was driving yesterday and on talk radio, they talked for about 2 hours on property taxes, what it's gonna be after this legislative session was over. I was on the property tax task force. Property taxes are a very complicated, cumbersome thing. And I think we made it more cumbersome and complicated as the legislation went through. But the biggest thing with property taxes and listening to a lot of this radio stuff is they don't ever, they keep on talking about, well, we need to cut them. We're spending too much. And you gotta realize your property taxes fund county government. But only about 30 to 35% of your property taxes is funding county government. The rest is funding schools. So, 65+% funds your schools. And that money goes to the state of Montana, and the state of Montana reimburses back to this, fills the school coffers back up to 80% of their budget. So if you cut property taxes, the school people are afraid that they won't get their funding because income taxes fund the state. And if income taxes ever go down, then they have trouble funding schools. So it's more of your philosophy on how you're going to fund things. I mean, property taxes for the counties, we only can go up half the rate of inflation. And the new bill, that was in the past, that half the rate of inflation over the last 3 years. That was how it's always been done. As of July 1 this year, it's gonna be 4%, or we're gonna do actual inflation up to 4%. That's what the new rules are gonna be for how we do our budgets for just the county. So if we give raises, annual raises, the rate of inflation, that takes care of any money we can increase on our property taxes. And everybody knows the graders are up. Buying gravel went from $6 to $12. Buying scoria went from $2 to $18. I mean, everything's going up. So we are not really, as Roosevelt County, we don't really grow our Roosevelt County budget. We try to maintain and keep up with the rate of inflation. And if we wouldn't have oil money, we wouldn't have all the services out there. It's just get $5 million oil money and a $30 million budget. That really helps. So the new property taxes, everybody that has a house $400,000 or less is going to pay less on property taxes. We're going to do a 0.76 rate, which is a lot lower. But all that does is shifts up to the people with the higher houses will be paying more. So it's just a tax shift. It's not really a savings, but it's in Roosevelt County. If you have your house under 400,000, you're going to pay 0.76%. And then everybody's going to get a $400 rebate this fall. And commercial taxes are going to be lower for that $400,000 raise for businesses. And agriculture rate is going to be reduced. But again, this is just a shift. The same amount of dollars are in the end are going to be collected. It's who's going to pay for them. And then in 26, it's going to kind of be the same thing. There'll be a tax rate reduction for most residentials. There'll be if you're a non-resident and you own a second home in Montana and you're not living here, you're going to be paying a higher rate. Commercial will be paying lower unless you're 6 times a median commercial rate, and agriculture rate will continue to be a little bit lower. But again, it's a shift. And in Roosevelt County, the shift can't really shift to we don't have a whole lot of big businesses. You got BNSF and Northern Border, things like that. So there's some rate people that'll probably pay a little bit more, but they paid a little bit less last year when they got reappraised. So it kind of brings them back to where they were 2 years ago. It's just the county mix makes a difference. And in Roosevelt County, we are one of the higher property tax rates. We're at 1.32% on the average property tax rate. So in the state of Montana, we are a higher rate because we don't have a whole lot of other people to pay those taxes. We don't have a whole lot of big business, big industries. See, some of the oil people are paying their property taxes, but Roosevelt County pays a higher rate than most of Montana. Property taxes at 1.32, which was kind of interesting. I did not know that.
So kind of a crazy question on this. How will that work? Because some of these oil wells, don't they get an 18?
You got 18 months holiday on any taxes.
So will some of these newer wells, when they come off that 18 month, will that help the county
Sure.
in a whole?
Because it's mostly the production tax on it, those opposed to equipment.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
they don't have a whole lot of equipment. They got production tax. So we get that production tax. And that helps us a lot.
I don't know how many we have that are still in that window. But
You know, all the big ones.
So since we don't have as many high-end homes, is that gonna hurt our county? I mean,
You know, with all the modeling I saw, it won't affect. It's just such a small dollar amount. It won't affect it a whole lot. You know, you get that 0.4% rate on 300,000. It doesn't affect a lot. It'll bring it down a couple of percent. Again, it's a shift. Somebody else will pick it up. So our ending dollars are still the same. So it's really just a shift.
But the county is funded off property tax.
100% property tax.
So will we,
Our mills will have to go up a little bit. The mills will have to go up a little bit to make that half the rate of inflation. So our mills levy is about $32,000, which is 32 million really, but you change the decimal by 1,000. And it's been at that $32,000 for 10 years. We haven't went up, we haven't went down. We don't have shrinkage, we don't have growth. Where you get in some of these counties, their mill levies have all went down because their growth is so high. They can collect the same amount of money, but then they get new growth. So they can add the Missoulas and the Bozeman's get that new growth. They can increase their county budgets by that new growth. As of July 1, they will only be able to take 50% of that new growth to raise their budgets. So they're going to be limited on that new growth, which we've never had that problem. So every county is so different on the breakup. And that's where a lot of the legislators got mad at Missoula, Bozeman, Helena. Their budget, their dollars amount they spent was so much higher because they had so much growth. They get the 100% of the rating of that growth. They only made 50% of that growth. And the other 50 is supposed to go back to help for taxpayer relief. But we don't have that issue that one's still coming. So we won't get that. It's like to say it's a, I don't know if I cleared the water or muddied the water. And anytime you talk, they talked radio yesterday were really bad about that. They were talking about counties need to control their budgets, reduce their budgets. We're only 32% of that property tax is 35% of that property tax is collected, the rest is schools. And I don't think anybody wants to cut funding on schools. But want to fund the schools.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and I felt that you pay your taxes to the counties, you think that's what's funding the county go. But just because Roosevelt County sends out the tax bill or any other county does not mean that 100% of that money is going to run the county. Then you take your 65% that gets put out to fund the schools. It's just the same as the oil money when that comes in. I can't remember what the last number was, but Roosevelt County got just a fraction of the income. The rest of it went to the school districts.
well, what 52%, is it 52% goes to the state.
State, and then we get 50 and then the schools get.
That's a pet peeve of mine,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
that
we
the
didn't share-
state has to keep the money.
And we didn't share in the lumber and coal and the
Yeah.
oil impacts here, we should have all that money here.
Yeah.
But that,
I think people would look at it different if it, and I know I just don't want to point to. But school district 45, they get 3, so when your tax bill comes out, well, you pay that directly to the schools, and then what comes here is what funds the government. I think people would have a whole different take on the conception of it, you know. It's just a mind thing, and Gordon, like, I mean, he was very involved in the taxes and through the legislature and stuff to kind of get his thumb on the pulse, so we kind of had an idea of what was going on. You got to really study it to understand it and know it.
the only way to reduce property taxes is forcing the state to pay more income taxes towards the school funding. You know, we were doing about 300 million property taxes going to the schools. Then it went to 500 million, now it's at about 650 million of the 1.3 trillion in funding. So the property tax are paying more of that school funding. You know, the state pays it all, but it's going into a pot. And so it's just, and Montana Taxpayer Association doesn't like any of these because they're complicated. This is gonna be a really complicated system. And Montana taxpayers, every time they testified on any of these bills, they said, we need to simplify this. No one could figure out how to simplify it, so it became more complex. So, I don't know, it's still work to be done on that, but for the majority of the taxpayers, I think will go down a little bit, but if you own a second or third home and stuff like that, you'll probably be a wash.
Well, I don't know, I just.
Any other questions or comments? I don't know.
Video.
Okay. This is-
We'll take action on Maureen.
Yep.
You did?
Yeah. Good.
Oh,
Got that about your map.
Yeah,
I wouldn't doubt that a bit.